remarkable thing in your state, and you are celebrating corruption time.
To real-time feedback from you, the citizens.
There is propaganda. They can never make it work. I will not support that tax reform.
If NBS is turning out very fake data to us, because this data lacks empirical evidence.
We dig deep with the decision makers, hold the powerful accountable, and keep the conversation alive on social media. Join Maryann Okon every Monday to Friday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. for the most interesting news. It's 2025.
Credible journalism, bridging the gap between people and those in authority. With Hard Facts, you are sure to get only the facts.
Tune in to Hard Facts with Maryann Okon on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Well, it's been a weekend filled with very interesting stories. In fact, most of them have broken the internet. But none has really broken the internet as what happened in Lagos State yesterday. And we're going to start off the conversation. This is Hard Facts. This is the nation's #1 talk news and sports radio station. We're broadcasting live from our audiovisual studios right here in Itomian Crescent, Victoria Island, Lagos. And I am Maryann Okon. Welcome to the show. This will be your most authentic news experience, and you can take that to the bank. It's an abridged version of the show because, of course, we still do have I Beg to Differ student debate competition coming up on the 4 o'clock hour. In the meantime, we're going to divide this hour into two. The first half of it, I beg your pardon. We're going to be talking about Lagos. Yes, what happened at the Lagos State House of Assembly yesterday? The abracadabra of Lagos politics, I'd like to call it. And then, of course, on the other side, we're going to move to River State, who's mostly known for the abracadabras of the world. But Lagos seems to be the eighth wonder, if you ask me. I'm being joined by two lawyers, one from Lagos, one from Port Harcourt. And so these gentlemen will help us understand or try to make sense of what's happened, especially in these two states. But let's start with our present constituency. We're live, facebook.com/Nigeria Info FM. We're also live on YouTube, Nigeria Info FM. Go join the conversation. We're also on Skype at Nigeria Info FM if you're listening from outside of the country. But post your comments or your concerns or your questions on what transpired yesterday in Lagos State and over the weekend, the judgment from the Supreme Court on Rivers State. I'd like to start with my first guest. Dr. Deji Awobiyide is a lawyer. He is with the University of Lagos Department of Law. Yes, the Law Department. But before I bring Deji on, I'd like to play a clip. This clip is courtesy of Arise Television, and this was when the speaker had been sworn in. That's the former speaker who's now the speaker again, who was re-sworn in yesterday, Mudashiru Obasa. Take a listen, Lagos, and we'll be right back. For those who are wondering, I've already given it a name. It's what I would call the abracadabra of politics in Lagos, but my lawyer friend might beg to differ. Anyway, let's take a listen to the speaker.
I want to start by appreciating my colleagues. I want to thank you for your support, your dedication, your loyalty, and your staunch belief in our party and the utmost respect for our party leaders. I thank you, and I will always appreciate you for all you do. And let me sincerely single out my sister, the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Moji Miranda, who has been very, very, very supportive, loyal as Deputy Speaker. I thank you, ma'am, for everything. Thank you. God bless you. Let me also recognize our party chairman, Cornelius Ejelabi, and his team from our party secretariat. I thank you. I thank you for everything. Our Attorney General, Mr. Pedro, we thank you for being in our midst today. And management and staff of Lagos State House of Assembly, without you, we won't get to this stage. Above common standard of excellence, just don't come freely. But because of the hard work you put into the business of this house, Lagos State House of Assembly, I thank you for all you do. And I believe this is a challenge for you to do more. I thank you. We will always recognize you for what you put into the business of the Lagos State House of Assembly. I'm very sure dear Lagosians would like to hear more from me, but I want to sincerely say today is not the day for speech making, but to appreciate my colleagues and all our leaders who have put a lot to this gathering today. We thank them. Particularly, I must recognize our national leader, the former governor of Osun State, Babisi Akonde, and his counterpart from Ogun State, Aremo, former governor of Ogun State, Aremo Olusegun Oshoba, and all our GAC leaders. We thank them. Our amiable governor, his deputy from Lagos State, and other party loyalists. We thank you. We recognize all of you. And we want to assure Lagosians that for us, we have resolved and determined to serve their interests and protect their interests always. Our major responsibility is to represent them, and that we have been doing. So I'll also add this, that what is happening here today shows that Lagos State House of Assembly is very capable, and it's a house of integrity.
Well, he says he'd like to add that Lagos State House of Assembly is a house of integrity. Well, I'm being joined by Dr. Deji Awobiyide. He's a legal practitioner. His doctorate is from the law department. Also, he's with the Lagos State University of Lagos. I beg your pardon.
University of Lagos.
Yes. Thank you so much, Deji. How am I seeing two Dejis, please?
Yeah, so it's back up now.
Okay.
So just in case one falls. Yes.
All right, we'll have to take one Deji out and mute one. Okay, great. Deji, you heard the speaker. I mean, there were whispers here and there about, the speaker returning and Miranda stepping down, but I'm sure that people like you would have waved it away because you thought that was almost impossible. But like I said, it's the abracadabra of Lagos politics. Where do you stand in terms of the legality of what played out yesterday?
Right. Thank you for having me again. You'll recall that when this happened, I told you that in politics, particularly in Nigerian politics, never say never, that, anything can happen. And what you saw yesterday basically, confirms that view that I hold. Well, as a constitutional lawyer, what you saw play out yesterday is Obasa himself confirming that Miranda was speaker. So that gives validity to the fact that he was validly removed by his colleagues. So she had to resign first and foremost, which is a confirmation that he was no longer speaker. So his resignation and the others that followed just paved the way for him to be nominated again and then, elected speaker. So that in itself is an admission that his removal by his colleagues at that time was a valid removal. But of course, they found a political solution to it and is now back in the saddle. So, for us, constitutionally, for us, yes, there's infidelity to the Constitution in terms of his removal as speaker and his reinstatement through the same procedure by his colleagues as speaker, following the resignation of the speaker, former speaker Miranda, which has now paved the way for him to come back into the saddle. But of course, a lot of his colleagues were not happy, at least going by their expression, with the fact that he is back in the saddle. If 32 of your colleagues say they don't want you, and some way somehow by some political mathematics, you are now back in the saddle. It says a lot, particularly for the independence of the legislature as a arm of government in Nigeria.
Just as you've mentioned, of course, there will be a lot of feelings that have been hurt. Remember what transpired last week, the hostile in quote takeover by Mudashiru Obasa, showing up to the House, seating with just 4 members and saying that he was back before this, proper, what we would call proper. I mean, again, that I will use the word proper loosely here, because there are many who have said that this is just there is no democracy in what just transpired yesterday. But definitely there are people who obviously will feel bad about what's happening. But what does this say about the people who are in the House of Assembly representing Lagosians? Does it mean that Lagosians have never really been represented by these people and they're all there for personal interest or in the interest of one particular person who waves the wand, and whichever direction the wand goes, the people go? What does that say about public representation of the people of Lagos State in that House?
Well, if you have ever looked for an example of what the people say about the lack of confidence in the electoral process, a lack of confidence in the people that represent them. In fact, the disconnect between the people that are supposed to represent them and the actual process of representation, look no further than what happened yesterday. Because you have legislators who are supposed to represent the will of the people, who had by themselves removed the speaker and elected a new one, now have to go back in less than 50 days to now eat the humble pie. They have been forced to eat the humble pie to now reinstate a person that they said was unfit to occupy the position. I mean, it tells you a lot about their independence, because I'm sure that Montesquieu is probably rolling in his grave now, because this age-long principle of separation of powers that has been so entrenched all over the world has taken a very huge loss, yesterday with what happened at the Lagos House of Assembly. Because all those persons who stood behind Miranda to say that they gave her a full support, 32 of them, now have to all sit down there and watch the person that they have vilified, who they have by their own showing identified as being incapable of holding that office, to now sit down there and eat the humble pie and have him back in the saddle. Surely must take a lot from their confidence, even their personal beliefs. So no wonder a few of them were crying, whether they were acting or not, I don't know. But of course, a few of them showed a lot of emotion concerning what happened, what transpired yesterday. So it's a huge blow for the independence of the legislature. It's a huge blow for democracy, because what it means is that you have a set of people who cannot stand up for their beliefs, who can say one thing today and can be coerced to do something else tomorrow. Again, it also tells me that there's no ideology in our politics. There's no politics of ideology. There's nothing that propels them to represent the people. There is really no interest of the people in the decisions that they take, because they basically thought about themselves first and foremost before thinking about the people. If for any reason they thought about the people, how would they go back to their constituents to say that the person that they said could no longer do the job is now, they now have confidence in him being able to do the job? I mean, if shame was a thing for politicians, of course they should be ashamed to stand before their constituents to now face them. But of course, I'm not sure that many of them have the liberty or really even care about the people that they represent. Because if for them, I believe, more facts would emerge as we go along. But I believe whatever decision that they agreed to take was taken by themselves in their own interest and not in the interest of the people. So it was basically maybe their own interest that led the way in whatever they decided to do yesterday.
Because of time, I have 4 minutes, and I'm going to ask you a two-pronged question. First and foremost, does it seem, because you're a Lagosian, I'd categorize you as a Lagosian. Does it seem that Lagosians have maybe now that their eyes are open to the fact that, it's not like it's an open secret, but then now it seems to be a lot more glaring to the average voter that the hand of Esau is involved in the Lagos State's political situation. Does it seem to you that Lagosians are interested in any way in breaking the hegemony? That's one. Secondly, now that he has been brought back as speaker, What next? What do you think is going to be next? I mean, we're hearing that he will now honorably resign, and then due process will be followed. Do you think he might be offered anything politically? Do you think that maybe the water that went under the bridge was maybe someone knew where some bodies were buried, and metaphorically? What exactly?
Well, I think this may be a tipping point for Lagosians, because a lot of the times you have a lot of Lagosians, very showing apathy towards the electoral process. Now, what happened yesterday, you can see the reason why the apathy is there. It's real, it's present, and this further solidifies the apathy that the people feel. But this may be a tipping point, a rude awakening for all Lagosians to know that they need to take more active steps in the affairs of their states. And of course, you know that the people, the current couple of legislators, they owe their loyalty to some other persons. I do not think that they owe their loyalty to the people, because if they did owe that loyalty to the people, they would have sought their constituents' view before proceeding to do what they did yesterday. But of course, because their loyalty is to their party and to the persons or people who are useful in getting them to that office, they are not probably going to be eager to consult anybody or any electorate in that regard. So Lagosians would have to now wake up and elect people that are accountable to them. And I hope that changes in the next cycle of election. This is me open. I know that a lot of things also go under the bridge, because poverty is a thing. Ethnic cards are also a thing in election cycles. So those things will also play out eventually. But at least having to sit down and take that disgust of having to go back and eat their own vomit should be a thing personally for all the legislators that should concern them. Now, to the other issue of which you raised now, concerning what next for Obasa and what next for the party and APC and Lagos in general. Like I told you the last time, it's very likely that he's been offered something, and I also know, and I also want to hazard a guess that the current legislators who are also there were offered something to go back on and eat their vomit. So I'm sure that a lot of things have been traded back and forth. What has been traded, we will see in the fullness of time. But certainly in politics, in Nigerian politics particularly, you never say never.
Deji Awobiyide is a lawyer with the University of Lagos, and he's speaking to us on Hard Facts. Deji, thank you so much. Because of time, I'm going to have to let you go. But thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, Lagos, we'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we're switching gears to River State. Let's find out what's happening in River State and what are the repercussions or implications of what that judgment that was given last weekend, the implications on Rivers people, on democracy, and of course on the finances of the state government. We'll be right back after these messages.
You are listening to your number one station for talk.
99.3 Nigeria Info.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk. 99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's